Now, if we do it that way, and we make the theft of intellectual property a white-collar crime, it could be an everybody wins situation, because there's no point in having a patent office if it's not a universal system.
The irrepressible Trevor Bayliss there. While Nicola Dagg leads the intellectual property practice of the law firm Allen & Overy, and Shed Simov is an entrepreneur and author of a book on ideas and also on making money. How big a problem is this, that entrepreneurs and inventors feel some of their best stuff is being stolen by other people?
It's an ongoing problem, but to put the other side of the equation, in the UK we have a sophisticated regime for protecting intellectual property. We have a full range of intellectual property rights. Patents are in the news today. They're a very important tool. We have a very sophisticated and highly regarded patents court, and today we have the news of a new patents regime for Europe that's simpler and perhaps more cost-effective.
But is this, I mean, is this something that the big companies can do because they can afford lawyers like yourself, whereas the bloke in the shed, and that was a kind of glorified shed, can't do it or is not interested in doing it, so he can't really protect himself?
It's not quite as black and white as that. At one end of the spectrum, we have the big corporates who are very sophisticated consumers and who will need to invest at both the protection stage and the enforcement stage to protect their crown jewels. But we see different arrays of intellectual property rights being used at the other end of the spectrum. We've got design rights, trademarks, copyright, less expensive. So it's a case of the flexibility in the system in terms of the different rights, and going forward the flexibility in the court system.
When you listen to Trevor Bayliss there, did that seem familiar to you, that people who invent things perhaps are not the best business people in the world and perhaps don't feel they get the reward for what they do?
Correct. I'm not in my workshop, and lots of people aren't, and I think there's a new breed of entrepreneur, and not really using the word inventor, more creative. And today, with 2 clicks, you can find a factory in China to make anything, which is exceptionally exciting and empowering.
But how do you protect whatever it is that you've come up with, you've decided is your great new idea? How do you stop, if you're not a big company, how do you stop other people nicking it?
It's tough, and the government needs to invest more in encouraging people and showing them how to protect things in many different ways, like Nicola said. So you don't have to patent something, and actually you can only patent something if it has an inventive step. Now, the ideas I come up with, and many other people who... Susie, the housewife who comes up with an idea in the bath, might not come up with the water engine, but she might come up with a great idea for a product. Now, you don't have to patent that. You can design register it, or you can trademark the name, and that gives you some degree of protection.
What about some of the things that we were talking about there, the question of it shouldn't just be EU-wide, it should be universal, and that would, because the system would then presumably be simpler, but that would imply everybody signing up to it, which may be somewhat tricky, I would suspect.
There is some appetite for going there, but I think, you know, today we see major advancement in terms of getting a pan-European, a one-stop shop for patents in Europe, a single patent, a unitary patent for Europe, and one court to give us the answers for the whole of Europe. That's major progress. There are international treaties in place where some things are already harmonised, including an entry point for patent applications that can grow into a collection of patent rights across the world. So it's not ideal, but step by step, and at least we're driving it forward in Europe at the moment.
Do you think we have, you know, in Britain have this image of ourselves as a nation of inventors, pointed out to the Nobel Prize winners and so on, and we like eccentrics, we like people who come up with wacky things, but we are not particularly good at monetising it, to use that horrible word, making the cash out of it?
I'm not sure about that. I think it's very easy to label someone eccentric, and I'd rather go away from someone tinkering in their shed to someone in the pub who comes up with a great idea for a greeting card or a new novelty product, and then find an expert with just a couple of clicks, and that's really fantastic and easy to do. And you don't have to be an engineer to do that, because you can find someone to help you very easily.
But that's true, you don't have to be an engineer to do that. But many of these great inventions, I mean, Trevor Bayliss there was talking about if you just make a slight modification, then the patent perhaps may no longer apply. In other words, you lose most of what you have thought of, your real originality.
Correct. So therefore you have to be very careful about going into that whole process because it's expensive and lengthy. If you're a big pharmaceutical company, then I see a reason to protect your drug. I don't relate to that. I relate to somebody who is in their flat thinking up a concept. And so, therefore, I would say to them, don't be scared about protecting your idea. Do it best, do it fast, do it now, and do it well. And that will give you some degree of protection.
You suggested, you seem to be quite optimistic that this was going to get better, but actually bringing in a new Europe-wide system, there's going to be a lot of bumps over the next few years, isn't there?
I think that's fair. I think we will see the benefits of this system once it's bedded down, once we see a good set of high-quality judges in place, when we can begin to predict their decisions so we get more legal and commercial certainty, once we see their decisions being upheld, and once the users of the court system become familiar with it. So, yeah, a bumpy ride maybe to start, but the structure is there.
OK, thank you both very much. Thank you.